What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about that's been making waves in the Megabonk community because this new patch, v1.0.17, just dropped. And it's actually a bigger deal than it looks at first glance. You know how sometimes patches feel like a handful of tweaks that barely change your runs? Yeah, this one's not that. This one really shifts how you approach the game, how you read the field, and even how your late game feels when things start getting completely chaotic on screen. So I wanted to break this whole thing down with you, piece by piece, because there's so much going on here that's worth talking about. Let's start with what might actually be the most exciting addition, the new full map system. Before this update, exploration in Megabonk could feel kind of like wandering in the dark. You'd get turned around, miss shrines, or just lose track of what you'd already cleared. Now, we've got a proper map, and it actually reveals as you explore. It's not just a little cosmetic tweak, it changes how you plan routes. When you're going for shrine runs or hunting down chests, that fog of war system makes progress feel way more satisfying because every step you take literally uncovers more of the world. It's small on paper, but in gameplay, it's huge. The fact that it works across both stages just ties everything together. It makes the world feel cohesive, and it gives that little sense of exploration that was missing before. And since we're talking about things that make the game feel smoother, the new particle and effects opacity slider is an absolute blessing for anyone who's ever had their screen completely explode with visual noise in the late game. You know what I'm talking about. When you've stacked half a dozen effects, your build is going crazy, enemies are popping everywhere, and you can't even see what's hitting you. Now you can actually tone it all down. The slider lets you reduce or even fade a lot of that visual clutter, so you can keep the chaos under control and still perform well. And it's not just about looks either. It can actually help your frame rate. Those end game waves where your PC starts crying, this is going to help a lot with that. It's one of those changes that just makes you wonder how it wasn't in the game from the start. Another interesting addition is the optional DirectX 12 mode. Now, this one's a bit of a mixed bag, and I'll be honest, it's not for everyone yet. The idea is that it's there for people who've been having stability or crash issues on DirectX 11. When you launch the game, there's now a little pop-up where you can choose which one to run. DirectX 12 might help your system handle things more efficiently, but there's a trade-off. Some of the visual settings like ambient occlusion and color grading aren't supported in DX12 right now, so you're giving up a bit of visual fidelity for performance. It's basically an early test mode, but it's cool that they added the option. You can feel that the devs are really trying to make the game smoother for different systems, rather than forcing everyone into one setup. Now let's talk about something a lot of players have been begging for, the ability to toggle the silver tome. Finally, this item used to kind of lock you in. Once you had it, your whole build revolved around it, whether you liked it or not. But now, you can just switch it off if it's not working for your current setup. That small freedom makes a big difference in experimenting with builds because it gives you the flexibility to mix up your strategy mid-run instead of being stuck with one path. It feels like a breath of fresh air for players who love tinkering with different synergies or just want to try out weird combos on the fly. The patch also gave the minimap some subtle but smart improvements. Charged shrines are now a different color, which might sound tiny, but it seriously helps when you're scanning around trying to plan your next stop. Before, it was easy to miss a shrine completely because it blended in. Now you can instantly spot where to go next. Money particles have also been sped up in the final swarm phase, which helps you collect everything faster and keeps the flow going when you're swimming in gold drops. And on top of that, there were fixes to a few annoying issues, like the weird hero sword size bug that messed with hit detection sometimes. Stuff like that adds up, and you really feel it in the moment-to-moment gameplay. Alright, now let's get into the balance changes, because this patch hit a lot of characters and items in ways that are going to shake up how people play. Starting with Fox, finally getting some love. His passive luck per level went from 1% to 2%. That might not sound dramatic, but anyone who's played him knows how much difference luck makes in Megabonk. It affects crit rates, item drops, all that good stuff. So doubling that scaling means Fox just became a serious economy engine, especially for long runs. You're going to see more Fox mains climbing leaderboards again, guaranteed. Then there's Noelle. She's been a bit of a weird case for a while. Great concept, but her numbers didn't always justify picking her. That's changed now. Instead of getting duration per level, she now gets size increases, and she deals bonus damage based on how many enemies are frozen. Every frozen enemy gives her a small multiplier, and that turns her into an absolute menace in freeze-based builds. Suddenly, crowd control isn't just utility, it's straight-up damage scaling. That's a cool design move because it rewards you for playing to her theme instead of just using her as a generic ranged pick. Expect to see people running icy synergy builds that melt entire waves. Robinette, on the other hand, got a little nerf in the late game. Her gold scaling after 200,000 has been toned down, which is fair, honestly. She's been dominating the high score runs for a while, and this change just keeps her in check. Early and mid-game, she's still really solid, so it doesn't kill her potential. It just stops her from snowballing into absurd territory, where she basically prints infinite money. I think it's healthy for the meta overall. Dicehead got a neat buff too. His rewards fall off used to have after level 25, but now that threshold is pushed to level 50. That means you can stay in that sweet spot longer before your bonuses start tapering off. It makes progression with him feel smoother and more rewarding, especially during extended runs. And then there's Calcium, who got one of the more interesting reworks. His passive used to be a bit clunky, but now it's super straightforward. He gets damage scaling per level, plus extra based on his speed multiplier. The faster he moves, the stronger he hits. It scales with how close he is to top speed, so if you're good at managing movement buffs, you can really crank up his power. It's a fun, skill-based mechanic that rewards keeping momentum, and it's definitely going to make him more popular with players who like high-tempo builds. Ogre got a nice little buff too. His passive now gives 1.5% instead of 1, and his scarf damage boost went from 33 to 50%. That's a noticeable difference. It makes him feel tanky and punishing again. If you've been sleeping on Ogre builds, it's probably time to revisit them. Now, Brass Knuckles, this one's a stealth buff that's going to create some nasty combos. It used to scale additively, which made it kind of meh past a certain point. Now it scales flat, which means every stack counts in a much bigger way, and the size of your hits grows as you stack it up. So those close-range melee builds are going to hit way harder and look way cooler doing it. It's definitely going to push the brawler-style setups higher in the tier list. One of my favorite small changes, though, is that Spaceman no longer takes fall damage. It's about time. That little detail used to be funny at first, but in long runs, it was just frustrating. Now you can play him the way he was meant to be played. Constantly moving, hopping around, using mobility to your advantage, without worrying about chipping away your own health bar. It just feels better. The Curse Doll also got a massive upgrade. It can now curse up to 5 enemies per second instead of just 1, which totally transforms how it works in crowd situations. Instead of slowly tagging enemies, it's now spreading debuffs like wildfire. It's a subtle change in numbers, but it changes the rhythm of entire fights. And of course, the devs cleaned up a bunch of smaller issues that people have been reporting for a while. Stuff like the Shady Guy bug, weird XP or HP display glitches, that occasional damage tick that happened during pause, and the music intro bug. They even adjusted the weekly leaderboard reset time so it lines up better globally. It's all the small polished details that make the game feel smoother and more consistent. So, what does all of this actually mean for the meta? Well, the big picture here is that Megabonk just became more readable, more balanced, and more rewarding to experiment with. The new map means smarter routing and faster progression runs. The effects slider and DX12 mode make the game more stable across the board, especially for those huge late-game builds. Balance-wise, the focus has clearly been on bringing underused characters up, rather than just nerfing the top tiers. Fox, Noelle, and Calcium are probably the biggest winners this time around. Fox gets better scaling, Noelle turns into a powerhouse with freeze synergy, and Calcium is now the ultimate momentum character. Robinette's nerf just keeps her from overshadowing everyone else. It's also worth mentioning that this patch feels like the developers are listening closely to player feedback.